Hello, and welcome to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by CAZOO, with Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson, bringing you all the chatter that matters across the car retailing sector, from factory to forecourt.
Today, we're delighted to welcome CAZOO CEO Barry Judge and CMO Lucy Tugby to the Motor Trade Radio podcast on the day that the old motors business rebrands to CAZOO. So welcome to the podcast, both of you, on what must be an exciting day for yourselves and the business.
Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Phil. And it's great to be here. It really is an exciting day for everyone in the team. We've been building towards this moment for, I would say, almost 18 months. So to finally have the CAZOO brand front and center across everything we do feels like a significant milestone. I think not just for us internally, but also for dealers and consumers.
Thanks, Curtis. It's great to be here as well.
Yeah, good to have you back on, Lucy.
Yeah, fantastic. So, I mean, obviously, we've talked a few times about the rebrand, and Motors acquired the CAZOO brand back in June of 2024 and repositioned itself as a marketplace in April 2025. And as we're talking from today, which is Wednesday the 27th of May, the Motors business has been rebranded as CAZOO. I mean, can you talk us through what drove the change and what it will mean to car buyers and dealers?
Yeah, I can answer here. So when we set out on this journey to become an alternative marketplace for dealers in the UK, we asked ourselves, some honest questions, some hard questions around what would stop us and what do we actually need in order to have an impact. And the answer kind of started with people and culture. We came out of eBay ownership. We exited with a very kind of corporate mindset in place, and that just wasn't going to cut it. We needed to redesign the culture from the ground up, to be more founder driven, to be a bit more fearless, a bit more dynamic. So that cultural shift is something that's really powered everything you see today. Now, the brand itself, I think it's important to be clear, this is not simply, and it's never been about simply slapping the CAZOO logo on the Motors website. We are consolidating our entire dealer business under the CAZOO brand and new CAZOO technology. So we'll be transitioning all traffic from Motors to CAZOO. And then later in 2026, the Motors website and platform will be sunset. And I think the reason is straightforward. CAZOO already has, I think, over 60% consumer awareness. It's a top 5 automotive brand in the UK and number 2 marketplace in terms of brand awareness and consideration by some distance. So building that level of recognition for Motors from where it's at right now would have cost us tens of millions and taken many years. So that the brand equity gap made CAZOO as a destination the obvious choice for us. And the timing feels right. The market is shifting. Dealers have been telling us for a long time that they need a credible alternative. If you look at what's happening in the wider market, and I think Auto Trader's full year results last Thursday, it's clear that that incumbent is navigating a difficult period. Dealer numbers under pressure, growth slowing, and that's creating a window for a challenger brand with genuine momentum to step into. So and we intend to be that brand. So for consumers, to go back to your question, for consumers, they won't notice a dramatic change, right? We've been ramping up CAZOO marketing, and CAZOO as a destination for over a year, and the awareness and consideration numbers have been climbing steadily. For dealers, there's no action required on their part. They continue listing their vehicles as they have done in the past, and we have managed all like the redirects and the technology in place behind the scenes to make sure that their transition is seamless and unfelt.
And Lucy, following on from that, the CAZOO brand, let's be honest, it wasn't liked by a lot of dealers as it was set up in direct competition to them as an online retailer. While it may have failed to reshape the used car buying model that it set out to do, it did achieve incredibly high consumer awareness, as Barry has just touched on. How have you addressed the challenges of that potential hostility from dealers with the benefits of that positive brand recognition from car buyers?
So as Barry says, we've CAZOO is still that top 5 automotive brand, already the number 2 marketplace for awareness and consideration by some way. And over the past 2 years, we've been transforming it from that retailer brand into that pure play marketplace, and that has unlocked already significant growth for dealers, and it continues to do so. So because of that high awareness, CAZOO converts the traffic to leads at that much higher rate, meaning that buyer intent is really high. So essentially what that means is that CAZOO leads are now selling cars for dealers, which is obviously quite a turnaround. This proves the value of the brand to dealers better than anything else that we could have created in a marketing campaign. It's shifting cars off forecourts now. And what's really important is that we continue to bring dealer partners along on this journey. It is a true partnership, and it's really working. Our dealer numbers are up significantly, 17% year on year. So we're delivering more leads to more dealers than ever before. And this is the difference that the CAZOO brand is really making to the industry now.
And I mean, Lucy, you announced the rebrand back in April, ahead of the official sort of rebrand that we're talking about today. I mean, what feedback have you had from dealers with regards to that rebrand?
Yeah, overwhelmingly positive, because they understand now what CAZOO is here to do. In Q4 of last year, dealers spoke out. They were very clear. They wanted change, and there's clear energy behind that change now. The market's been broken for some time. It really lacks that choice. It lacks that credible number 2, a marketplace that can really bring both a strong brand that resonates with today's car buyers, but also delivers a significant volume of leads at good value as well. And CAZOO is really fast becoming that alternative for dealers.
And Barry, what do you think will make CAZOO different from Motors in the eyes of both dealers and car buyers?
Yeah, good question. I would say this is not just a brand change. This is about executing on our promise to dealers to provide a genuine alternative in the market for their advertising spend. Yeah. For us, running 2 brands would always be inefficient, right? You would have 2 teams, 2 tech stacks, two sets of marketing spend, all competing for the same resources. Every pound we spend on Motors was a pound not going behind CAZOO. So by consolidating behind one strong brand, we move faster, we innovate more effectively. We just have a more ruthless focus in the business. CAZOO, but I think the important thing for dealers, or the bit that really matters to dealers, is CAZOO converts at significantly higher rate than Motors ever did. So that translates directly into higher volume and better quality leads. Like Lucy touched on, leads are up considerably year on year. I think almost just over 40%. For car buyers, CAZOO is perceived as modern, fresh, a brand that represents them. It resonates particularly well with the younger audiences. Brand consideration, like Lucy touched on, has grown to almost, I think, 40% by March of this year, which tells you consumers are responding. Yeah. And the challenger spirit that defined the original CAZOO is very much still at the heart of what we're building. But this time, it's a marketplace built with dealers, not in competition with dealers.
And that kind of pinpoints that brand equity, doesn't it? It is the strength of that brand, certainly amongst car buyers.
Absolutely.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, we'll be back with more from Barry and Lucy after the break.
You're You're listening to all the chatter that matters on the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by CAZOO.
And Barry, you talked about when you announced the rebrand, and you made it clear that CAZOO would position itself as a direct challenger to the recognised market leader, and you touched on Auto Trader there. I mean, how will you do this? I mean, you were just touching on in terms of that traffic and activity between the two brands. What's your next plan of really taking on this challenge?
So I think for me, the market has lacked a credible number two for too long. A marketplace, a number two with strong enough brand to deliver on sufficient lead volumes and to give dealers a genuine alternative for their advertising spend. In most markets globally, especially the markets in Europe that we looked at, and the number two player typically operates at, around 50% of the leader's revenue. That gap exists in the UK automotive space, and we intend to fill it. It tells you just how far ahead the incumbent is of the challengers. In Q4 last year, dealers spoke out clearly. They were quite vocal and quite clear that they wanted an alternative destination. And CAZOO, we believe CAZOO is fast becoming that alternative. Our dealer numbers are up almost 20% year on year. Like I said, leads are up over 40%. And look, if we've learned anything, last year, Auto Trader isn't immune. Not everything it does turns to gold. Their full year results last week tell us an interesting story. I think revenue growth came in below expectations. They guided to broadly flat revenue in the first half of 2026, and I think they lost almost 500 dealers following the deal builder fallout. I think they were asked questions around where those churning dealers were going, and they kind of articulated that it was going to a long tail of alternatives. Well, we know they came to CAZOO because our numbers are up 20%. We intend to make sure CAZOO is the obvious destination for these dealers going forward. So with our numbers moving in the right direction, with the 60% brand awareness, with the kind of strategic investments, the marketing spend that Lucy's touched on, or sponsorship of Brentford, and various kind of investments into influencer marketing and paid marketing. I believe we're reawakening, the CAZOO brand, and it's working for us. So CAZOO is here to shake things up for the better, to provide a fairer marketplace for every dealer and a more trusted experience for buyers.
And Barry, staying with you, in April, you launched a CAZOO ChatGPT app aimed at simplifying the car search process. How important will AI be in future CAZOO integrations, products and services?
Yeah, it's a really nice question, and it ties back a little bit to my comments on the culture earlier. As we kind of got into the build, we saw engineers working late into the night, working weekends. They're really consumed by, this feature and the desire to get it into the market. It was a really exciting time for the business, and to see that kind of attitude. I think car search is far more complicated and stressful than it needs to be. Consumers often compare it to going to the dentist, right? That tells you everything.
Not in a good way.
About how broken. Yeah, absolutely not in a good way. And that tells you everything about how broken the experience can be. Trust is the number one factor. Buyers are genuinely fearful of making a mistake and being left with a car they don't want. So we built the CAZOO ChatGPT app to let consumers search or inventory through natural language conversation, instead of forcing users to apply certain filters. We now let them describe in their own words what it is they're looking for. So example, I need a reliable family SUV under 15,000 with low mileage, and and then the app returns match listings. CAZOO was the first UK automotive app on ChatGPT platform, and that positioning was deliberately strategic. Today, it's about occupying the AI native car search space early, learning how consumers describe cars in their own words and feeding those insights back into our core product. I think in terms of moving forward, I think more broadly, AI is embedded across our business, not operating within a silo. If I look back over Q1 in 2026 alone, we ran just over 30 AI experiments, and those experiments then largely falling across, I would say, maybe five kind of key areas. So engineering productivity, dealer experience, consumer experience, platform governance, and then I would say the last is kind of around internal operations and efficiency. So I think that velocity alone tells you something about the culture we've built and our future intentions with AI.
And is there anything you can hint at in terms of those future intentions and the sort of products that you'll be looking at introducing to the platform?
Yeah, I think from a top of funnel perspective, we're looking at that kind of search and discovery space within LLMs. We obviously then at the bottom of funnel looking at how AI can support and help the consumer on their journey towards creating a lead. I think you'll see natural search bars at the top of the SRPs on search results pages on CAZOO. So we're testing quite a few AI related features. If you fall into the right cohort in the app or on the web, you will see what it is we're testing. And then obviously internally, we've been using Claude to be able to improve or get productivity levels within engineering and also within our commercial functions to be able to be much quicker in terms of a response to dealer queries and questions. So I would say it's there's a broad spectrum of tests that we're working on continuously. So I hope that you will see more of these features moving from tests to full market rollout as we move through Q2 and early Q3.
And Lucy, I mean, in terms of marketing, I mean, what can current and future dealer partners now sort of expect to see in terms of investment and things that you're going to be working on, to promote that brand CAZOO and obviously engagement into that dealer network?
Yeah, I think we've talked a little bit about it already, but I think essentially whatever you perhaps thought of the old CAZOO, and it's certainly got a lot wrong, but it was undeniably an innovator and a disruptor, and innovation and disruption are very much still at the heart of the brand today, as Barry's alluded to, of some of the the experiments and the changes we're investing in at the moment. But over the coming months, we will roll out a new challenger brand strategy and marketing campaign. And we've been very clear about our intentions to shake things up for the better, to create that better, fairer marketplace for dealers and an alternative also for buyers. So I guess at the moment, all I can say is definitely watch this space. There's a lot more to come, and I'm sure we'll be back on here and telling you all about it very soon.
Well, following on from that, one for you, Barry, and last question for you. Can you share some of your medium to long-term plans and any ambitions that you have for CAZOO? And I'm wondering specifically, for example, if you're thinking about introducing vans or motorbikes onto the platform. And is there a role for CAZOO to play in helping dealers sell new cars? What can you tell us?
Yeah, Chris, I can tell you that we have already introduced vans and bikes on the platform. So we've, I guess, started that vertical stretch into kind of new opportunities. I guess that vertical stretch beyond used cars into new opportunities. We're still early in our journey with vans and bikes, but they're good starting points for us, and there are other kind of segments that we're looking at. I would say our immediate focus is crystal clear, accelerating on our core ambition to become an undisputed alternative marketplace in the UK, and continuing to grow our lead volumes and lead quality for dealers. Leads are up 40%, and we expect that to continue as we complete the transition from motors and I would say focus all investment then behind that one hero brand. Over the next 12 months, dealers should, I would say, be excited about four things broadly. So more lead growth, continued AI development, sustained brand investment, and new dealer tools that help them get more from our platform and hopefully better manage their forecourt. In terms of the adjacencies that you touched on, I guess like vans and motorbikes, we will we're not going to rule anything out. There are exciting opportunities here. There's new cars. There's also extending from motorbikes to motorhomes, etc. But right now, every ounce of our energy is going into winning in used cars and making CAZOO the brand dealers and consumers turn to. Get that right, and the platform becomes the natural place. Then that platform becomes a natural place to expand into adjacent verticals. So, but I think that is down to timing. So, the North Star is simple. CAZOO is here to shake things up for the better. It's a fairer marketplace for every dealer, finally delivering a credible alternative for their advertising spend. It's fresh, modern, trusted experience for buyers that gives them the confidence to search without fear.
And I mean, I just absolutely fantastic speaking to yourself, Barry, and yourself, Lucy. I think you've already demonstrated there, that 40% growth on leads, and I think what you've got planned in terms of coming to that single brand of CAZOO, the innovation, the use of AI through Claude and ChatGPT, etc. It sounds like there's a very exciting broad path ahead, and as you say, that North Star, Barry, that and obviously with yourself, Lucy, what you've got planned in terms of that marketing for the dealers, for the market, for the consumer, etc. Things, it's really exciting times ahead, I'm sure, and keeping you both busy, I think, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, as you say, can't wait to get started.
Well, that's all for now. Many thanks for listening to this special weekday podcast. We're back with the headlines this weekend. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Thank you for listening to the Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by CAZOO.